Hey, everybody, it's your friend James Shaw. Trust you're doing okay. Thanks for being here with us. We're doing what we always do, talking to elite people who are doing elite things. And I'm excited because I've wanted to have Chloe on for a long time. I've gotten to know her over the years, and she's elite and has overcome a lot and built a great business and has a great life, and yet did it through adversity, not without it. And we're going to talk about that today. So, Chloe, thanks for joining us. Would you introduce yourself to everybody, tell them who you are and a little bit about you, where you're from, stuff like that?
Hi, James. Great to be with you. My name is Chloe White. I run a small team in Connecticut, and we cover Farmington Valley and down to the Connecticut shoreline.
And you sell a bunch of houses. I mean, it's not, you don't just dabble. You've got a pretty successful business, right?
Yes. So I want to say our biggest year was 2020, like most people. We sold 186 homes, was 43 million. We sold, I think, 152 homes the following year. And as many people, last year was way down. And the only number I was proud of was that I reduced the expenses to accommodate the change in income for last year.
Well, that's really smart. I'm glad you did that. And look, when a market goes through back-to-back declines and we get back to home sale levels of the mid 90s, a lot of us are going to take a hit. And yet here you are, still, going through the business. But it's not. I can't imagine that a decline in production last year was the biggest adversity you've ever faced in your business. In fact, I know it's not. You've overcome a lot, and now you say you're ready to help people push through.
Yes.
Can you walk us through a little bit of your story? Because you had look, it was you were selling houses and work, and then you went through some major life things. Walk us through just kind of what happened and what led you to where you are right now.
Sure. So I got my real estate license in 2005. My boyfriend at the time, who would later become my husband, said we're going to invest in real estate to build wealth. We bought a two-family in 2004 that we moved into. We bought a three-family 6 months later. Then we bought a foreclosure that we would later renovate and live in. We bought a six-unit in 2006. And by, I want to say, 2007, I was $40,000 in credit card debt. I was, charging groceries and gas. I had joined Keller Williams in 2006, and I knew that I had to invest in myself. I was my greatest asset, and I went to all the trainings I could. I enrolled in 2008. We did Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. It took me 3 years to pay off all the credit card debt. And I remember the first thing that you have to do is create like a $1,000 emergency fund. And that ended up being a miracle. It was the day that Profit Share deposited into my account, and it was the $1,000 I needed to make that emergency fund.
That's
So
What an unbelievable story. How did that feel to make all this progress toward the credit card debt, and then now your next thing is this $1,000, and then boom, it shows up.
it was one of those miracle moments, James, because I think up till then it had been, $20, $30. And I swear it was the day, it's always the 21st. It was the day before this next session. And I looked in the account and I thought, oh my goodness, where did this money come from? And it was like $1,000 and like 20 cents. And, since then, I think my downline has grown to over 50 people in, the years that I've been with Keller Williams. And, that was one of the blessings in my life. Fast forward in 2008, we got married. And fast forward even more, I hired my first assistant in 2000, right around the same time, 2008. I was building my business. I, had many mentors over the years. I was taught to like track all of my business. I still use the same spreadsheets to track, close business year after year. And I was introduced to Tony Robbins. I went to a couple of his UPW events and, really was focused on mindset and just continual growth. Through all that, my marriage was struggling. I had started seeing a therapist, I think, in 2012, and she had said to me, Chloe, your husband is struggling with addiction. You really need to go to Al-Anon. And I was so
Real
confused.
quick, for people who don't know what that is, this is for those of you that are in relationships with people who struggle with alcohol addiction. This is your group. It's kind of your version of AA, just for people
Yes.
who are curious, so that you can go and learn and be a supportive partner, but also take care of the impact that that has on you. I'm just curious because I want to interrupt or ask, how did that community support you, and in what way did it do so, and how did it kind of help you get through? Because we've got people watching that are in relationships where people struggle with addiction. What advice would you give there?
Yeah. So the first meeting I went to, I really didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't think that my life was as bad as some of these people were sharing. And this was obviously before COVID. So the meetings were all in person. You had to show up. I remember praying I wouldn't see anybody I knew. And, I always say, like, or people say that Al Anon, AA is for people that have trouble with drinking, and Al Anon is for people who have trouble with their thinking. And it took me really years showing up. They say it's a gentle program, it takes as long as it takes. And, I learned a lot about myself through working that program. And, I realized that probably my dysfunctional childhood led me to a relationship in this dynamic, right? And all the while, I was regularly drinking myself. However, I was not looking at my own behavior the way I was looking at his behavior. And, it all kind of came to a head, I would say, in 2017. So however long that ago, 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. And I decided, I got the courage really to file for divorce. And, we had 2 children. I had a baby and a 4-year-old at the time. And, it was a very difficult time for me. And, all the while I'm still showing up to work and doing what I need to do. And yet I find myself, I went to Date with Destiny December of that year. It was like 5 months after I'd filed for divorce. And, that was, a life-changing experience. And, a couple weeks later, right before the end of the year, my husband would die in a car crash. And it was 2 weeks after our son turned 5 and 2 weeks before our daughter turned 1. And we'd been waiting for the new year to finalize the divorce. The divorce was kept very quiet, was very private about it. And, that I had a huge support system in the community. The realtor community, supported us. My family and friends, really kept me going. And, then a year later, I
Well,
just
Chloe,
decided,
that's a lot let's not gloss over it. That's a lot in a short amount of time.
yes,
You wanna go and make sure that your thinking's good as you're in a relationship that struggles with addiction. Then you make a decision that it sounds like a mutual decision that you 2 decided, "We're gonna step away, we're gonna move on, we're gonna do this." But then your husband dies in a car accident. I mean, this is any one of those things would be very challenging for someone, and yet for you to experience all 3 while still raising 2 small children and leading a team. You had agents on a team, and you're
yes.
running a big business. Um, I don't know that there's in the time we have, we can say, "How does one get through stuff like that?" But how does one get through stuff like that? That's what I'm curious about.
Right. So, I mean, I continued going to therapy. I continued reaching out to the Al Anon community. I had already paved the foundation for, mindset and, all the Keller Williams trainings. And, you know, I would go to retreats. I had a lot of foundation to keep me moving forward. I was
Is
raised
that a
by,
key piece here? Because you've taken bold multiple times. You talked
yeah,
about going to Tony Robbins. You've been in coaching. You go to family reunion. I mean, you
yes,
you do all that thing. So is this a piece where, if someone is struggling or has a lot going on, that look, take care of you, go
yes,
invest in your mindset and your
yes.
foundation first?
Absolutely. Read all the books. When I talk about having so many mentors over my life, a lot of them were people I never met, in the books where we have access to reading. And, there's just so much out there. If you feel like you're alone, you're never alone. There's so much. Recently in the last year, I started doing the 5-minute journal. And I always wanted to be a journaler, but I never really could get into it. But I can do 5 minutes a day. And, you know, fast forward the journey through his addiction and then, his passing, it had me look at my own part in my life. And one day I woke up and I decided, that my relationship with alcohol was feeling more toxic than fun. And I stopped drinking in 2019, and that further helped me be a better person. And, I want to get up at 5 a.m. every morning. And my morning really starts the day before. Like every decision, I make over the course of the day is either helping me or hurting me. And so I go to bed early at night and I'm able to get up at 5 a.m. I work out every day. The goal is to work out every day. I meditate every day. And, I'm very consistent in my behavior. I know this is not only about just sharing my story, but also about, sharing systems that have worked for me. And I don't know if you want me to segue into.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it, because I think this is a big thing that through trauma and drama and just various things that happened to you, that allowed you the perspective you needed to make a reset in your world. And we don't all need trauma and drama to make a reset. That's what happened for you.
Yes.
And yet other people can borrow your trauma and drama and have their own reset right now and do that. And so let's talk about it. You go through and reset, and my guess would be, and it doesn't mean that you don't struggle on a regular basis. You got 3 kids now, right?
Yeah.
What, 11, 7, and 2.
That's right.
So there's a lot going on in your world.
Yes.
You're remarried
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So it's still, and you're still running a team, which, by the way, saw its production go down last year. There's still trauma and drama, but how do we get through that? What are the systems to help us? How do you go from someone who never journals, who now does, who doesn't work out, who now does, who drinks all the time and now doesn't? Like, what are the systems and strategies? Tell us.
So as far as journaling and working out, I start really small. I have had accountability people, other people I knew that were waking up at 5 a.m. and we would text each other every morning. And that helped me get out of bed. I use Mel's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to get out of bed some mornings. Like, just because I'm committed to doing this, it doesn't mean it's always easy. So with the journaling, I couldn't deal with a blank page. Like I needed a quote, I needed prompts, and making it so simple and easy and quick to start, is what got me from not doing it to doing it. Same with working out. I found that if I woke up in the morning and I was dreading going downstairs and working out, I had to tell myself, make it smaller. So if I didn't want to ride the bike for 45 minutes, could I do 20 minutes? And usually if I could get on the bike and convince myself to do the 20 minutes, it would turn into more, maybe lifting some weights, maybe stretching. Same with the meditation. If I started by saying, I'm going to meditate for 1 minute, because that was all I could muster, all I could commit to initially, it led to meditating for 5 minutes and then 10 minutes. So for me, it was like breaking it down so it's so simple, I can't not do it.
I love that. So what advice would you give to the person who's struggling with stuff like that? Well, you talked about Mel Robbins, by the way, is the Mel you referenced, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
But what advice would you give to the person who is struggling? Because first thing I hear is you've implemented a lot of things, but my guess is you didn't implement all of them at once. This was something that built on itself, kind of one thing at a time, right?
Yes. So I'll go back to when I stopped drinking alcohol. Really, for that first year, my one thing, I used the one thing with that. So my one thing every day was, I'm not going to drink alcohol today. And that was really, if that's all that happened that day, that was a win. And, after you do it for so long, after the first 30 days, it got easier. After 3 months, it got even easier. Yes, I had to make accommodations. Like I was going to bed earlier, because usually at night when I was cooking dinner is when I would want to have a glass of wine. So I would have tea instead. I've heard, like, know yourself, right? And once I paid attention to my habits and what worked for me and what didn't work for me, I just used it in other areas of my life. So once I got through the year of drinking, it's rare that I even think about alcohol. Even when I'm with people who are drinking, it doesn't even, it's not even something that takes any energy for me
Yeah.
to you
I
know,
hear that all the time from people who have
participate.
stopped drinking. I've interviewed many people who that's a habit they've given up. Not necessarily even that they had an issue with it. It was just a decision they made that they don't
Right.
need this in their world anymore. And I hear over and over again that once you've kind of made the decision and you get far enough down that line, it's not even an issue at all. And by the way, it's really cool and in vogue right now to be a non-drinker. So you can still it'll all be okay. So then you said though that this transitioned into other areas of your life. I'm curious about how getting you together also helped you get your business together. Because as I'm hearing this, I'm having this vision of they say put your mask on first before you help the
Yeah.
person next to you. And I'm
Yeah.
almost hearing put your personal mask on first before you worry about your business. And I'm
That's
sure this has moved into better systems and strategies and perspective in your business too.
absolutely. I mean, we've always, anything I do more than once in my day-to-day business operations, we systematize. We have checklists for everything. We've, been doing client events for years. And once we do a client event, we have a checklist that takes us through the prep, the event, the after party. So, it's just making your life easier where you don't have to remember what happens next. Every week I print 5 of these to-do lists. On the left, it's there's like 25 slots. Those are all the people I'm going to talk to today. On the right, it's all the things like more of my get to do's, appointments and that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, I know if I've won the day by how filled in this is and what's checked off. And you know, the daily to-do list, the early morning wake ups. I've also been in BNI for 13 years, which is Business Networking International, and I'm sure some of your listeners are
Oh yeah.
part of that.
Yep.
That's had a huge impact. I also my business was focused solely on the central Connecticut part, and in the last couple of years we've moved also towards the shoreline. So I moved my BNI group, and I'm in a whole new network down there. My message is also like, find the fun in what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
after this is my 19th year in business, I love what I do. I
Yeah.
still love working with buyers and sellers. And I find that the more fun I have, the more balanced I am, the more business is attracted to me. So
Yes.
I'm a big 411 person. I did my 411 last year, and it was August, and I looked back on my 411 and I saw that I wanted to learn how to play pickleball like a lot of people. And I hadn't done anything about it, but that 411 got me to sign up for lessons at Park and Rec. And
That's great.
it was a little scary. I hadn't played sports in probably 10 years, and I showed up and I learned how to play. And then this winter I recently played with probably 40 mainly retired people that I would never have access to. And I did it for the fun of it.
Yep.
And it was like a month, and I got my first referral through the
See?
network of people.
Genius.
And, if you're not having fun, you can change that.
I bet you're pretty good at pickleball too.
Love it.
The 4-1 is a great tool to track your progress toward goals. If you're not familiar, you're a KW person, anybody in your office can tell you about it.
Yes.
It sounds like to me too, time blocking's really helped you. And this is a concept that people talk about all the time. Oh, I need a time block. But like, really, how does one do that? You've got some systems in place around time blocking that have been a big help.
Yeah. So I live by my digital calendar. So it starts with my 5 a.m. wake up. It starts with, working out, meditating, getting ready. I drive my children to school like 3 days a week. And then it starts with, office time, appointment time. I will, over the years, I've put slots in, like when I had listing appointment goals, I would pre-fill those into my calendar, even if I didn't have the appointments for the week, just to get my brain trained to fill those appointments. And, every day we have all of our clients' birthdays and home anniversaries. So those are the first contacts I'm making every day. On Fridays, I'll look out over the weekend and try and hit those birthdays and anniversaries that are coming up over the weekend on Friday, so I'm not missing anyone. And, it's kind of like that vacation effect.
Mm-hmm.
When you're living by a schedule and you know what you're supposed to do every day, just like before you're getting ready to leave, you suddenly get like laser focused.
Yep.
It's like I always think about how do I live every day with that laser focus. So when I'm working, I'm making the most of that. And when I'm with my family, I'm making the most of that.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who is interested in getting on this kind of journey or is maybe on it and yet still pushing through? What advice would you give them?
I would say don't give up. Like every day is a fresh start. And sometimes if you're not feeling like doing this or that, you may be tired, you may be hungry, you may be thirsty or lonely. Like check in with your body. A lot of times we're like go 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 and we don't take the time to step back and check in and see, what do I need in this moment so I can take that next step and find accountability. You can hire a coach and probably go much faster than doing it alone. And if you're not there, then get accountability person, a friend, or you've created this incredible community on the Pivot Shift call. And I'm sure there's someone out there that's looking to do the same thing that you are. And you could do daily check-ins. I think that's super helpful.
You're the best. Thank you for sharing this with us. It's an honor to know you and watch your journey. You and I got in real estate at the same time, and we've known each other a while thanks to a mutual friend, and it's just been fun watching what's happened to you and all that you've overcome. Thank you so much for spending time with our group today.
Thank you, James. Be well.